Welcome to another video in the Artful Coder series. Tonight we're going to be covering the web API layer of our clean architecture solution. So just to recap, in the last video we looked at exceptions, we used middleware to handle it, and now we're going to build the actual web API that will bring it all together. So what you want to do is right click on solution, add new project. So this is going to be the .NET Core web app. So web API, that's what we want. We don't want anything else. So you've got a full web app that will support Razor pages. We don't want, we just want a .NET Core. So click next. And we're going to call this pars.web API. And that is in the repos of pars. Click next. And do we want any of this? So we can configure HTTPS. We use minimal API, so we're not going to have traditional controllers on this. We're going to do a very simple way to do. So let's create our project. Let's go create it now. So what do you get out of the box? A load of gump that we need to get rid of, but we do it as a way of building, just getting a core out there. So if we were to run this up now, what we should see is debug, start new instance. We've not put any references to other projects, so this should just work. Yes, I do. Get this. Yes, because we're using HTTPS. And somewhere. Okay. So we've just got a simple API with a class. We try it out, execute. We just get some weathers. So what we're going to do is we're going to map our application out to our web API, so then we can actually start to see our API in access. So let's just close that down, and well, first thing we need to do is add some project references. So add notes and dependencies, add project reference, and the only two we need to add is these ones here. Okay, there you go. And we need to add a new folder called core, and then in here we're going to have some endpoints. So let's do add new item, endpoints, and let's add another folder in here called services. So we're going to have a way of saying that each service is linked to dynamically, so we don't need to add separate controllers and then worry about handling it. We just do it out of the box. So the first thing we need to do is create a class. So not folder, sorry, I do apologise, just did it too quick. So okay. So first thing we need to do is we need to say add a class, which is there, and we're going to call this, let's call this min API. Let's call this API group base. Do add, and it's going to be a very simple class. It's a public class, but we want to make it abstract. So that's it. And we're going to have a simple method called public abstract void map. And what is it going to use? It's going to use a web application dot app. Okay, so that's all this class has. So what this is going to say is when we start building a minimal API out, our services are going to inherit from this API group base. So what else do we need to do? Well, as we're doing just testing one endpoint. Let's map one, but we can do the same for the others. So let's add, you need to add a new class, and this time it is a class, static class, and it must be a certain name. It must be by endpoint root builder extension. Okay, so we'll create that, and it's going to be static class, and we'll just map one of these for simplicity for now. So what do we want? We want the post, because that's, we're going to be posting a car in. So public static by endpoint root builder, and this is map post. So we won't worry about the others. Let's say this endpoint builder, and we want delegate handler, and we want handler, and we want string equals string pattern equals that. And we're going to leave out the guard clauses for now, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to, we're just going to keep it simple. We're just going to do one variation of the CRUD of the different verbs. So we're going to say builder dot map post, and all this is going to pass in that, and we're going to then say with name and dot handler dot methods dot name. There you go. So why is it not? Oh, that will return. That's why. So have we got that right? Yep. So doing that, build up that post, and say let's have a look what we've got here. So builder dot map post. Yeah. Okay, we'll have a look at that in shortly. So say return builder. Do that. And we're going to do that. So this is just going to do that for now. We know we've got an error, but we'll come back to that. So it's not liking that. Okay, so would you like to know the glorious reason why? Because we've got this, it's tried to autofill in there. Do that. There you go. It's just the order of the actual variables. That's why it's called it. So we've got our post map now. So the next thing we need to do is actually implement our code. No, there's one more thing we need to do. So we need to have some logic in to map all of our endpoints. So we're going to add a new class, which is, need to call it web application extensions. You have to call it this, web application extensions. Let's have a look there. Yeah, that's looking good. So we call this web application extensions .cs, very important. And it's going to be again static class, and it's going to have a public static root, root right, group builder map group, and this is going to pass in this dot web application and that's app, and we're going to pass in here our app group base, because that is a class that we're tying to each of the services too. So then we're going to pass in here as group, and then we're going to go and start building this out. So we're going to say var group name equals group dot get type. There you go. And what do we want to return? Well, we want to return app dot map group, and this is going to be we're going to have it as / API as an interpreted string API / $group name. Call it group name. Well, it's just that. And we say then we want another function on here, which is with tags, and it's put in there. Okay, so we've got a map group. So the next thing we need to do is we now need to map the endpoints. And what I mean by that is this is a functional call to map on middle API endpoint. So let's have a look. So create a new function called public static web application map end points, and it's this. There you go. So it's already tried to do that. So var, and this is API group base type equals type of, and I'm going to paste that back in there again. So what we're saying is we want to get any services that have, and it would help if the type that in autocorrect interest, so type of. Okay. So next thing we need to do is we need to use system.reflection using system.reflection. Okay, so what this is going to do is say var assembly equals assembly dot get execute assembly. Because we've already got maybe null here. Let me spell that right. Okay, let's call this API assembly. Just call it that. Sometimes if you name things before they're assigned and they have a common name, then it won't do. So let's just say here. So next we need to find all of our subclasses. So what we're going to do is we'll extend from this class here when we put the service in, and then you'll see it all kind of come to life. So let's say var API group based types equals API assembly dot get exported types there, and we use a bit of links now. So where with an arrow function t dash t dot is subclass of, and then your group name. So is the service we're mapping a subtype of our API group base, and that it kind of uses reflection to get that information. So then what we need to do is for each if it's right, face type in the groups, and if I type this right, group base, and what we want to say here is if activator dot create instance base type is, and say API group base instance. Okay, so we've got that there, is that. Then we want to say instance dot, no, we have to say by basis instance dot map, and we want app, and then all you're going to return is your app. Return app. Okay, so that is the support for minimal API. So now we're going to add a service. So let's go to add new class, and let's look at this now. So this is where it gets really exciting. So we're going to have our class service, and we call it class, and it must extend our API group base because that is how it maps it through. So we're going to create a public class, and it's going to go there, and it's going to complain because we don't implement method. What we need to do here, excuse me on that one, is we need to do this. So we need to say we need to create this method with public override map, and it's going to be web application. If I I'm sorry, I do apologise. Public over, oh, hang on. Public, oh, okay, hang on. We're in it, that's why. We're in it. Sorry. And then all it's going to be is app.map group. So map in a group, and it's passing in this, which means this this web app. And we're just going to do, so we're going to have a simple handler method down here, which is going to be public asynchronous pass of type int, and that is at r. Now we need to use the iSender interface for sender, and we need to do from body because we're interpreting the past object from body, and it's going, and then this is where we need to go back up to our application layer, core, and what we're passing in is the request, and that's going to be handler. And then all you do simply is to do return await sender dot send, and we're going to pass the handler. Okay, so now we can go back to our method up here and finish this off. So it's that post, and we're going to say pass in our methods in map No, it's our name of our method, apologies. So add car into there. We're not going to have any pattern matching. And that is it. So in theory, what we now have is a service using a CQRS pattern, and we can then now go on to eventually put in our connection strings, hooking up to a database, getting it working. So we've got all those bits there. So the last thing we need to do again, what I'm a stickler for this, so we're going to create a new class and we're going to call it configure services. Then click add, and we're going to go how we're going to put that in, and we're going for public static class again, over a million static, and the namespace is always has to be Microsoft dot extensions dependency injection. That's what it has to be. So we have one method in here which is public static by service collection, and this is add services, and this is going to have this, and we're also going to have by configuration as configuration, and in this layer we're going to do add our mediator at this level as well, and we're going to also add our services. So we want to say services dot add mediator and say CFG equals that. I think I've already done this, but we'll see. So dot register from assembly. I think we've done this, but we'll go through the motions and check it afterwards. Type of, and what we want is we're going to go to here, and the type we're going to do is this. Is we'll pass type of that and say dot. No, hang on, what's it doing? Type of that dot assembly, and it's comma read file. Okay, so assembly, and then what we're going to do. Oh, we just need the one. Okay, so you can have more than one if you want to do that. And then what we're going to do is register. So registering our services. So services dot add singleton, and what are we injecting? We're injecting the service. So under car service, okay, go. Right, and then we need to return the service. So the other thing we're going to do is just going to put some other bits in here as well once we've declared our services. So let's just add in our services dot configure that dash API options, and let's call that, and we'll say option CFG dot press stating, there you go. So we've added that in. That's in. Anything else we need to add not at stage? No. And then we just want to simply return the services. return services. Right, so this is kind of starting to look really good. So, next thing we need to do is let's have a look at this. So, the last thing we need to do to get this to work is we need to take some rubbish out of this. We're going to take this out. We don't want this. This is because we added a default web API. We don't need all this here. And we don't want any of this rubbish here. And we're going to go up here. So what we need to do next is link in. So we're just going to make a change to our Swagger. We're just going to, now we'll leave that as it is. So the next thing we need to do is link in our bigger services. And what we want to do is we want to say builder dot services dot, and can you see already that we now have that there? Okay, so builder services, drop that off, dot add info and say builder dot configuration. And we'll say builder dot services dot add web services. Builder dot. Okay. So what we want to do is a couple of things we need to do as well. So let's put a line in here and we'll say app dot map. Okay. So that's added all of that in there. That's looking good. And we also need to tell that we're going to use our middleware. So as you say, we turn it on even though it's part of the services. So we say use middleware of type exception handling middleware. And do program. That's what we like. It's added it in. Now what we want as well is we want to say app dot use routing, and we're not going to use anything anti-forgery at this stage. And we want to say the next extension method we've added is map. There you go. So we've now got our endpoints mapped in. And that is all we should need to do. So let's save that. Let's do a build of our solution, see if it builds up fine, which I'm hoping it should do. It should do. Awesome. So what we can do now, you ready for this? So if we go to debug, start a new instance, it might throw an error, see what it does. There you go. So you can now see that we have an API there. We can pass in our parameters. Should we try it out? Try it out. Execute. Thinking about it. Nothing. So, because we don't throw in exceptions, there's request body string. We're just saying that. So if I copy that out and do execute, there you go. So you can start to see our nice middleware kicking in on here. So this is a web API. It's not going to save to the database at stage, but eventually it will do. But you can now see, because this was set to string, it could be that. It returns nothing, but it's got success code. But if we leave that blank and do execute, then you can see we get a 400 because back in our middleware over here, we told it that we wanted a 400. And any other error is just going to throw a 500 but report our errors. So, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this has been really useful, but you now have a web API with simple cars requests that we've tried adding, but it won't add it to the database because we don't have that plumbed up yet. The next video we'll actually look at plumbing that up, testing our API, just adding a car. We may put the other endpoints in, and then we're going to look at a Blazor for UI just to test that functionality. But a web API will give you what you need. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.